Hello, my dear friends. It's lovely to see you. Today you are going to listen to a very nice story. The stories of King Arthur. We're gonna start with the two dragons. Long, long ago, there was a little boy called Merlin. His mother was a princess, but he never knew her because on the very day that he was born, she went away from home to live in an abbey. Don't ask me why, but remember, this was a long time ago. And people did strange things, even stranger things, perhaps, than they do today. Now, you may think that poor Merlin had a very bad start in life, because not only did his mother leave him like that, but he never knew his father at all. Whenever he asked about him, no one would say a word. Merlin thought it very peculiar, and it did make him feel a bit sad. The good thing is that Merlin had a very kind grandfather, who brought him up as his own son. They lived in a palace, because Merlin's grandfather was a king. He ruled over that part of South Wales now known as Dyfed, and his palace was in the town of Carmarthen. Perhaps you've been there, but I'm afraid you won't find any trace of the palace any longer. It vanished long ago. Now, when Merlin was still a small boy, he found out that his grandfather has very special powers indeed. Not only was he a king, he was a magician as well. That's to say, he could see into the future and look back into the past. He could read people's minds too, and he knew just what they were thinking, even though they didn't say a word. One day, some soldiers came to the palace. They were very smart and wore tunics with red dragons on them. King Vortigern wants to see you, they told Merlin. You have to come right away. Merlin was quite a big boy by this time, about 9 or 10, and he knew that Vortigern was even more powerful than his grandfather. In fact, he was the king of all Britain. Why does he want me? Asked Merlin. Because he needs your help, said the soldiers. We can't say any more than that. King Vortigern will tell you himself when you get there. Merlin didn't want to go because he knew that King Vortigern lived very far away in North Wales. In fact, the king was building a new castle just below Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales. Remember, this was a long time before such things as cars and trains were invented, and the only way to go anywhere was on horseback. Do I really have to go? Merlin asked. Of course you must, his grandfather replied. When King Vortigern gives a command, we must all obey. But I want you to remember something I haven't told you before. When I die, all my magical powers will come to you. Please don't talk about dying, said Merlin. I want you to live forever. But the old man only gave a sad little shake of the head and turned away quickly. The very next day the journey began, and what a journey it was! They had to cross steep hills and many rivers, and there were times when poor Merlin wondered if they would ever even get there. But at last they reached Dinas Emrys, where Vortigern was building his castle, and Merlin still didn't know why they had taken him all that way. King Vortigern was a tall man with bright blue eyes and a white beard. He had a sword at his side and a way of looking at people as if he didn't trust them. When he smiled at Merlin, Merlin didn't trust him either. It's because he smiled as if he didn't mean it. The smile disguised what he was really thinking. "Welcome to Dinas Emrys," said King Vortigern. "Did you have a safe journey?" "Yes, thank you," replied Merlin. "But, sir, I must confess that I didn't want to come. I wanted to stay at home with my grandfather." At that, the king looked very serious. "My boy," he said quietly, "we cannot always have what we want in life. Come." And he took Merlin to the place where the workmen were building his castle. "These walls keep falling down, even though they were built on solid rock," said King Vortigern. "I want you to tell me why." Merlin felt a little frightened because he wondered what would happen if he gave the king a wrong answer. "Why do you ask me that question, sir?" he said, "when you have so many wise men in your court?" "Even the wisest man," said the king, "is not the equal of Merlin. Now close your eyes and tell me what you see." Merlin, wondering at the king's words, closed his eyes. "I see a cave," he said. "It is right under the castle. Only a thin crust of rock covers the top of the cave. That is why the walls keep tumbling down." "Good boy," said the king. "What else do you see?" "I see a deep pool in the cave," said Merlin, "with two hollow stones at the bottom. There is a dragon sleeping in each stone. One dragon is red, the other white. You must drain the pool and then fill in the cave to give your castle firm foundations." King Vortigern's face had gone deathly white. "So be it," he said, and he gave the command for the pool to be drained. When the pool was empty, a rumbling sound was heard from the stones. Then a dragon burst out of each, one red, the other white, just as Merlin had said. And with fierce cries, the dragons began fighting each other. King Vortigern clutched hold of Merlin. "Which dragon will win?" he asked. "The red or the white?" "The white," answered Merlin, for somehow he knew this. Without thinking, the king moaned. Suddenly the white dragon gave a triumphant roar. The red dragon lay dead at its feet. King Vortigern covered his face with his hands. The white dragon raised its great wings and flew away. It was only much later that Merlin realized what all this meant. The red dragon stood for Vortigern, and the white dragon for two princes whose father he had murdered. Their names were Aurelius and Uther. They were only children when their father was murdered, so they had been taken across the sea to Brittany to grow up in safety. Now they were old enough to return with an army to avenge their father's death. They defeated King Vortigern in battle and killed him. So the fight between the red dragon and the white dragon was a sign of things to come. And how had Merlin known about the underground cave and the dragons? Well, I fear that his grandfather was dead by then, so just as the old man had predicted, all his magical powers had passed on to Merlin. Ah, ah, oh, my little friends, I'm so tired and I'm so sleepy. That was the first part. So, if you want to listen to the next part, just make sure you subscribe to all of my stories on the YouTube channel and go and search for the Sword in the Stone story. Okay, see you later, my dear friends.